Okay, what up ladies and gents, it's your favorite Asian robot right here, and I am here today to correct a little bit of a misconception that some people have. Okay, one of the things that I was recently told, and I don't have anything against this guy, I think he's just been a bit misinformed. For repeaters, you have to have at least Cunning or Pulse. Repeaters rely on crits. This is not the case at all. Okay, I'm going to demonstrate this by showing you a simple test where all we're going to vary are the critical cells to see which gives you the best possible value. Okay? All right. It seems, and he's not the only person to say this, several people have said it, so it seems to me that somebody out there is saying repeaters rely on crits, which is not the case at all. It genuinely depends on your build. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I've got a basic build here. Okay? I have limited certain factors, so there's no chest piece and there's no boots. All we have is Predator and Recycle to form the base damage of the repeaters. The repeaters themselves that we're going to use are the cryo cannons, okay? And there's no bond attached. The mod is a lightweight frame, which has no impact on damage, okay? The chamber and the captain's grip is salvo chamber, captain's grip. These are not going to be used for the test. They're not important, okay? All we're going to do is we're going to use 3 cell combinations. This is with Discipline, an Omnicell that favors crits. And I'm going to show you that up here, we're going to start with Pulse, then we're going to use Cunning, then we're going to finally use Berserker, and we will measure the DPS and see what kind of DPS we get. We're gonna attempt to deal 35,000 core damage, because at that point, like if we're just gonna use basic attacks, okay, well let's set it at 40k, all right, so that it's a very fair test. That way the DPS goes on for a while, and the random factor, like there's a chance for the crits to happen, there's a chance for everything to take place. Okay, with this limited build, let's see what kind of DPS it takes for Pulse to get to 40k damage, for Cunning to get to 40k damage, what's the DPS, and lastly for Berserker to get to 40k DPS, 40k damage, what's the DPS. The reason we're doing this, all right, is to show you what is the benefit of each of these different cells individually, so you can see whether or not repeaters rely on crits. My honest answer is that it is build dependent. On a disciplined build, crits are likely to have more of an effect, but raw damage is still very important, which is why you always put in all your raw damage cells first, and then you do crits after with whatever you can fit in. After you do your defense, survival, all that. You don't go straight for crits, and you certainly don't sacrifice raw damage for crits. Let's take a look at the numbers. It's no use talking about the theory. You guys need to see it to believe it, so let me show you, okay? Like I said, a lot of this is misinformation fed to you by people who want you to fail. Check it out. First test is with Pulse, okay? Ready? There we go. All I'm gonna do is left click, all right? And let's take a look at the final DPS amount. Using only Pulse, as well as Predator and Recycle. Predator and Recycle will never change because this is to show the raw damage of the repeaters, alright? I think 35k might be enough because that's giving me a stable DPS figure, so let's get to 35k. And we'll finish out the full clip. Yeah, about 1,257 DPS. So let's record that. 1257 for Pulse. Okay, now, while we wait for the Recycle buff to disappear, in order to make sure that this is a fair test, we will now swap to the Cunning cell. Okay, we'll now swap over to the Cunning cell. The Cunning cell gives you 10% critical strike chance, 30% critical strike damage. Pulse was a guaranteed crit every 5 hits and 15% critical strike damage. Okay, so since there's a dude here attacking the thing, we don't want him to affect the test, so we're going to go over to this training dummy instead. Okay. All right. Now this is using Cunning and just left clicking, letting the left clicks go. Okay, there are no other factors in this test. Let's see how long it takes to get to 35k and what will be the DPS when we reach there. We have to cross 35k. Okay, so we ended up slightly higher with about 1293. Okay. Okay, so this is Pulse and Cunning. These two have been settled. Now, let's add in Berserker instead. Raw damage. Berserker adds 35% raw damage. Okay. And let's go see the results. Okay, we'll wait for the recycle buff to disappear completely because we want to start this out. Everything must be fair. Okay, the test must be conducted fairly. Okay, begin. Now let's take a look at the final DPS amount. How long does it take to get to 35k? Alright. Because it ends up at almost 40 anyway, so we should have a look. It's there. Okay, Berserker ended up with 1306, very close to the Cunning result, right? Now, what I'm going to say here and now is that this is with Discipline. Discipline deals with criticals. The more criticals you have, the better, right? So even so, the raw damage build was just about the same, even without adding any critical cells. This shows you that raw damage is so crucial. Criticals are good, but repeaters do not rely on crits. It is the build that relies on crits. Let me change this cell now to, let's say, Iceborne. Okay, Iceborne. I know Tempest is another very common build, but let's see the difference with the most extreme example, which is Iceborne. Okay, we will now test in reverse order. Okay, we'll start with Berserker, then we'll do Cunning, then we'll do Pulse. Okay, so we're going to test in reverse order now using Iceborne. Okay, so let me just record all the data and the results. All right, so you can see how all this works. Well, so that I can explain it to you in the summary section at the end. I realize that the sunlight is coming in, so sorry, I'm going to be a little bit bright for a little while. Let me just adjust camera brightness so you guys aren't blinded by like an imaginary halo, because I'm not anyone that special, right? Okay, so now that we have Iceborne in here, we're going to start the test with Berserker. Okay, let's begin. Doing nothing but shooting again. All right. Doing nothing but left clicking. Now, we would expect the DPS to be lower, okay, because we don't have the additional 8% critical strike chance. So I'm expecting the overall DPS across the board to be lower. This should be, like I said, expected because Discipline is an offensive cell. Iceborne should never beat Discipline in terms of DPS. Like, they might be relatively close, but it should never win. Okay, for Berserker, it is 1263. Okay, 1263. Now for Cunning, let us do the same test. We're going to now change these cells over to Cunning. Okay. Now we've removed the raw damage of Berserker. We are now adding crits. What will the results be? I'm actually interested to find out. But we're going to wait till recycle goes off, as always, because it has to be a fair test. Okay, recycle's gone off. Okay, looking good, looking good. As we slowly rush our way to, we're gonna have to change locations after this. $1181. Are you seeing that? The reason for this, okay, and of course the same results are probably going to be seen with Pulse. The reason why the critical cells are doing more poorly is because criticals are a multiplier, okay? I'm just going to take a quick moment here to explain why. Criticals are a multiplier. This means that criticals are designed in a way whereby the base damage is multiplied by a factor, but there's an element of chance to it. So of course, when the chance triggers, the crits do insane damage, but the critical multiplier is only 1.5. If you were to put it into an Excel formula, all right, and I'll leave the math to you guys. Now I could prove it in a video, but that would be like really long ass and boring because it'll just be mathematics. But I have actually done something similar on my Real Asian Robot channel. Let's see if you can find the old video. It's about 2 years old now. But basically, that multiplier relies on raw damage, which is why raw damage is the most crucial in a build, and then you fit crits around that. When you don't have any more raw damage to add, you add some criticals as a little bit of spice on top, all right? You don't add criticals base. Repeaters, no weapon relies on crits. It is build based. This is why discipline builds will feature crits, but they will always have a lot of raw damage added in there, as well as some form of defense. All right, this, as I've mentioned, is ultra crucial. Okay, without that, you're sunk. Okay, so now that we understand this and Pulse has and the recycle's gone off, let's do the final test with Pulse. Iceborne and Pulse, what are the final figures? Have a look-see. I do not want Rishu interfering, but hopefully he won't. Okay, thank you Rishu for moving. This is Pulse with a guaranteed crit, FYI. One, 2, 4, 6. In fact, Pulse on Iceborne, right, which doesn't have discipline as a baseline, right? Discipline favors Cunning because you will achieve close to the same rate of crits as you would with Pulse. That's why with Pulse alone, discipline didn't look that impressive. But with Iceborne, of course, Pulse is going to look impressive, but it was still less than Berserker. Understand that? Of course, ideally in a build, if you can fit it in, you want to fit in Pulse, you want to fit in some crits, it's okay. It's a great idea. It's not wrong. But please do so after fitting in raw damage. If you do not fit in raw damage gives you the best value. All right? This is why it's so build dependent. And this is why you will see builds sometimes with the repeaters going without Pulse, without Cunning. Because it is more important to include as many forms of raw damage in the build as you can. And then after that, if you want to include your Pulse, you want to include your Cunning, you can absolutely go ahead and do that. It's not wrong. But again, it is build dependent. And of course, depending on the type of build, you would have to choose between Cunning and Pulse. This is crucial. This is absolutely crucial. So please understand that it is not a one-way street. Understand that it is not just, you know, oh, this will always work, this will always be better. No, it is absolutely build dependent. So please, I don't know who is spreading misinformation to people out there. Okay, I'm just going to assume it's the officials again because they want you to fail. But on repeaters, you do not need to have at least Pulse or Cunning. You can follow the Asian Robot builds on the channel. They will give you the best potential idea for how to function with your build. All right, you can run either or. Okay, you can run some Pulse, you can run some Cunning, you can run all sorts of different things under the sun, but raw damage is the most important first. So please work with the builds, see what the build is offering you, and then understand that this is why I built in that particular way. You don't always need these cells. Okay? Thank you very much for watching this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If you want to support my content, you can do so additionally by sending a tip via the link in the description of the video. It is entirely optional if you want to. It just helps me run the channel better. You can also send an email to realasianrobot@gmail.com. Custom build orders are 50 USD. And if you would like, all right, heroic escalation carries are also 50 USD. Entirely optional. I always like to say this because it pisses off the haters. Okay? Thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Y'all have a good time now. Okay? Bye-bye.